All right, throwing a cylinder on the wheel. First, you want to make sure that your ball of clay is, in fact, a ball and not a square or any other shape. The more you start with a perfect ball, a perfect circle, the easier it's going to be to center. Okay, so here I go. I'm going to put a ring of water on my wheel. I'm getting my wheel going. And this ring of water is going to act like a bullseye. So I know exactly where to throw down my ball of clay. I'm stopping my wheel. I'm going to throw my clay down. And then I'm going to hit it twice. Don't hit it more than twice. It'll flatten out like a pancake. 2 times is enough to stick it to the wheel. Now I'm wetting just my finger. I'm going to get my wheel spinning. And I'm just going to seal my ball of clay to my bat. Just by bringing my finger right along the bottom, sealing my clay to my bat. Now I'm getting lots of water on my clay, lots of water on my hands. And I'm going to start by bracing my elbows. I'm squeezing with the pinky edges of my hands, and I'm coning the clay up by squeezing on the outside of the clay. As soon as you feel like there's a lot of grip and friction, it means you need to slowly release and get a little bit more water on your clay. I'm continuing to make a cone. And now once I have that cone shape, I'm going to take that cone and I'm going to push it towards 11 o'clock using this part of my hands. So taking this part of my hands, I'm going to push it towards 11 o'clock, and you can see that it wants to collapse in on itself when you push it towards 11 o'clock. Now I'm ready to start centering. So with centering, there's 2 different techniques that I showed you guys. The first one is to first use your pinky finger and the heel of your hands on both hands, and you're going to squeeze your clay in and up. Once you squeeze your clay in and up, I'm going to just show you what the ball of clay is now looking like. I want it to be flat across the top, and now I'm going to press forward and down by crossing my thumbs and pressing with this part of my thumbs on both hands. I'm pressing forward and down. Every single time you go to touch the clay, you're going to slowly release and slowly begin to touch it. And you know that it's perfectly centered when your hands are not moving when you're touching your clay, and you have a nice flat top and a nice straight side, okay? I'm gonna knock it off center so that I could show you the other technique of centering. So I'm just knocking it off center. Now you can see it's wobbling, it's not centered anymore. This is the other technique we talked about. My left hand is coming on the left side of the piece. I'm bracing my elbow into my body. I'm squeezing in and up with my left hand. Now I'm taking my right fist and I'm pressing the top of the clay down. So there's even pressure going on here on the top of my clay and all around the sides as it spins, and my left hand is pressing into it. So again, now I can test to see if my clay is centered, and it is. My hands are not moving when I touch the sides, and I've got a nice flat top on my piece. Now we're going to open up the well. So holding your hands on the outside of your clay, remember to always get more water on your hands than on the clay. Holding my hands on the outside of the clay, I'm taking both thumbs. This is the butterfly technique. I'm pressing my fingers straight down, right into the center of the clay. Go slowly, and when you feel like there's a lot of grip and a lot of friction, slowly release your hands, get a little bit more water, and then continue. You want to press your thumbs down until there's about 1/4 of an inch of clay between the bottom of your pot and your bat. Now you're not going to get the hang of it for a few times until you've practiced a lot. So what I want you to do is I want you to, when you feel like you're close to getting to 1/4 of an inch, you're going to go ahead and you're going to stop your wheel. I'm actually going to take the water out of my pot first so that we can see the bottom. I'm going to stop my wheel. I'm taking my needle tool. I'm pressing my needle tool down into the center. I'm going to take my fingertip and place it right at the point where my needle tool comes out of my pot. And I'm pulling it out, and then you could see that that measurement is just about 1/4 of an inch. Okay, you don't have to worry about that hole, it'll close up on its own. Next, we're going to establish the bottom of our pot. We want a nice flat bottom on our pot. So now my right hand is on the outside of my ball of clay. My left fingertips are in the inside of my pot, and I'm going to claw my left fingertips towards me, clawing them along the bottom of my pot to establish the bottom of my pot. once I've done that, I slowly released. I'm gonna get a little bit more water. And now I have to compress the bottom of my pot by bringing my fingertips from the center over to 3 o'clock. So I'm bringing my fingertips over to 3 o'clock and then back to center, back over to 3 o'clock, back to center. I'm just compressing those molecules of clay together because we're about to compress the walls by doing all those pulls when we pull our walls up. But we also need to compress the bottom to avoid any cracking at the bottom of the pot later when it's in the drying process or when it's in the kiln. So after you've gone from the center over to 3 o'clock a few times, you've compressed the bottom and now you're ready to pull up your walls. Getting more water. And you want to make sure that there's not a lot of water hanging out at the bottom of your pot. So if there ever is, you're just going to squeeze out your sponge, go into your pot, get rid of that water. And now I'm ready to pull up my walls. Here's my hand positioning. So my wheel is no longer spinning as fast as it can go. Now it's spinning about half speed. And I've got my fingertips on the inside and on the outside of my pot, and my thumbs are locked together. Now all I'm gonna do is squeeze more with my outside hand than my inside hand as I'm bringing up the walls of my pot. So I told you guys before, it should take about 3 pulls to establish your pot. The first pull I kind of feel like is always just a little bit of one to just establish your walls going up instead of out. So I pressed more with my outside hand than my inside hand, and I slowly released my fingers before I got to my lip. Now you could see how dry it is there, and also you could see how my lip looks all bumpy. So using my thumb and my index finger on my left hand, I'm kind of just pinching the lip, and I'm gonna use my right finger to karate chop the edge to compress my lip. Okay, so let's do another pull. First we have to get more water. I've got my fingertips on the inside and the outside. My fingertips are gonna be touching in the exact same part of the pot on the inside and the outside of the pot. My thumbs are locked. I'm gonna press with my outside hand a little bit more than my inside hand, and I'm gonna do another pull, slowly drawing the clay all the way up the sides. As your pot gets taller, you wanna slow your wheel down. And before I reach the lip, I'm just going to gently release. You want to completely release the pressure before you get up to the lip. I'm going to take the water out of the bottom of my pot. I'm going to add a little bit more water to the walls, and I'm going to go ahead and do another pull. Fingertips meet all the way at the very bottom of my pot. I'm squeezing hard at the bottom, and then I'm slowly releasing pressure as I move up the walls of my pot. So my pressure is getting lighter, 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 lighter. And then before I reach the lip, I'm releasing that pressure completely. Okay? I think I'm gonna do one more pull. So ideally you wanna do it in 3 pulls. It's okay if it takes more than 3, but you don't wanna end up doing 30 pulls. That means that you're not putting enough pressure between your fingertips and you need to press a little harder. It's okay to press a little too hard and rip through the walls or make your pot collapse, because then you'll know where that edge is. You'll know exactly how hard you can press. So you should see progress with each pull that you do. You should see your cylinder growing in height. Okay, so I'm again pinching the lip, and I'm using my right finger to karate chop the edge to make sure the lip is nice and compressed. And now you can decide if you like the throwing rings, you can leave them, or if you want to get rid of them, you can use a rubber rib to get rid of them. So first I notice that there's some water down at the bottom of my pot. I'm going to use my sponge to get rid of that water. I'm going to use my yellow rib. Doesn't really matter if you want to use your yellow rib or your red rib for this. And I'm going to use my fingertips on my right hand on the inside of my pot to support the clay. And I'm pressing my rib into my fingertips and my fingertips into the rib. And that's what's helping me get rid of these throwing lines. This is not a step that you have to do. If you like the throwing lines and you want to leave them, you can leave them. Or if you want them to look a little bit more differently, you can get rid of them with your rib, and then you can put them back in, maybe by slowing down your wheel and making larger throwing lines to make it more look like a spiral. Again, I'm just gonna get the water out of the bottom of my pot because I'm getting close to the end. Okay, now to remove a little bit of clay from the bottom of your pot, the wooden tool kind of looks like a knife, and that knife edge, which is like the one you can imagine you'd chop with, you wanna hold it so that it's completely parallel to the side of your pot. So taking your wooden tool, you're gonna bring it right parallel to the side of your pot, and you're just gonna press straight down to remove a little ring of clay from your pot. And then as soon as you reach your bat, you can release it. And now you have this ring of clay around your pot. So you're gonna take your needle tool, holding your needle tool this time parallel to your bat, you're gonna run your needle tool underneath that little ring, and it's gonna release it from the bat. Stop your wheel, cut off that ring, and remove that little ring of clay. So that's extra weight that was at the bottom of your pot that no longer is there. Okay, and now at this point, if you want to take your wooden tool and make your edge look a little bit cleaner and nicer, you can. You can put it down this time on your bat and make a little shadow underneath your cylinder. That'll be a really nice little detail. So now you can see there's a tiny shadow underneath your cylinder. It kind of makes it a little bit more elegant and it doesn't look as clunky. Okay, so now it's time to clean up your bat because we're getting ready to take this off the bat. So I have a nice clean sponge. I'm gonna bring that sponge all the way up against my piece. And as my wheel is spinning, I'm slowly bringing it out to the edge to make my bat nice and clean. And finally, I'm ready to wire it off. So I wanna make sure my hands are clean. I'm gonna stop my wheel, taking my wire tool, I'm wrapping my fingers around my wire tool so that they're nice and taut. And I'm using my thumbs to press my wire tool down so that it's right up against the bat. You want to hold it, pull it as taut as you can and press it up against the bat, and then you're just going to slice your piece right off of the bat, wiring it underneath. You should only have to do that one time. My hands are completely clean and dry. I'm drying them off on my towel. And now my hands are clean and dry, so I'm ready to take my pot, lift it up from the bat, and put it wherever I'm gonna put it, on the board that I'm using or on another smaller bat to put on my shelf. And that's it. The end.